All right. Alexion, how are you, man? Thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir. So we've known each other for a little while. I know you're based in Nashville. You do a bunch of shows up there. You have a radio show, bunch of stuff going on. But I want to get to know how you got started. That's kind of how I like to kick these off, like your journey in music, how you got into like EDM and DJing to like where we are now.
Yeah, no. So I'm originally from Atlanta, and for everyone in Atlanta watching, I'm originally from Marietta, so a little bit north
Mm.
of Atlanta, up there. And I got my start back when I was 14 years old. So I was like, I felt like I was a baby still, honestly. I was in middle school in eighth grade, and funny enough, I kind of got my start through all of this because of the Chainsmokers, out of everyone else kind of in the
Mm.
scene at the time. I guess like that was kind of the year like they had like like, there was like a lot of tracks like Roses and like Closer that all kind of came out, and for some reason I just immediately got hooked. And it wasn't even like house music, which is the funny thing. At first it was like a lot of just like that 100 BPM kind of like future bassy type stuff. So ever since then, I just kind of started playing around. I downloaded a DJ app, like some free, like pretty crappy DJ app on my phone, just to kind of play around with everything, just to kind of like see, like what is this all about, And at first, I thought I was a hot shot. I thought that it was amazing. Created a whole DJ name called DJ Waffles for any of y'all that remember back in the day. Um, and I thought that was the best guy ever. And then I would say probably about a year in, I was like, oh shit, like this, I'm not that good. Like, tone it down just a little bit. And so I just kind of was like on that grind and just like started practicing a ton. I eventually started kind of meeting with the other DJs around in Atlanta and kind of getting into the Atlanta EDM scene and kind of, talking to everyone, working with a lot of different people. Shout out JD Farrell. He kind of got me my first bookings and all that in Atlanta, down at Believe Music Hall, which is amazing to do. And yeah, started going down my producer journey just like, like 3 years after I started DJing because I was like, I
Mhm.
want to play my own stuff out. Like that's the kind of the goal at the end of the day. And I didn't want to be known as just a DJ. I wanted to be known as an artist. So what can I do to kind of like elevate that brand per se? Um, and so the great thing about the Atlanta EDM scene is the fact that like, everyone was like super, super open and welcoming and, it was down to talk and hang out and collab and do whatever it was. And so, I would just be going out with friends to the club and stuff like that, just like hanging out with everyone. And, over time just kind of started building these relationships and just meeting others. Um, Funny enough, I kind of got my first booking at Believe when I was in high school still, which made things a little tricky per se, when you're talking about legalities and age requirements, stuff like that. Um, and that made it a little bit difficult, but at the same time, I was like strolling in, and I'm like, I'm coming on a Monday morning back to class, and everyone's like, "Oh, what'd you do for the weekend?" And I'm over here being like, "I just DJ one of the biggest clubs in Atlanta. I don't know about y'all," and everyone's looking at me like, "You're only 18 years old. Like, what the fuck are you doing?" kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it just kind of progressed farther and farther, and kind of like the snowball effect kind of started picking up and everything. Um, Doing a lot more shows and stuff like that, working with a lot more artists.
Mhm.
And kind of spent my time down in Atlanta before moving up to Nashville, I guess 3 years later. So yeah.
So what sparked the move from Atlanta to Nashville?
Funny enough, it was for school actually. Had
Okay.
nothing to do with music. Actually, in fact, I thought I was going to kill my music career when I moved up to Nashville,
Really?
surprisingly. Yeah, well, because like, yeah, Nashville's Music City, and it is like
Mhm.
known for music, but I didn't really think there was gonna be any EDM up here, to be honest with you. I thought it was all just kind of like country music, singer, songwriter stuff, which I was like, it's cool. But I didn't think I was gonna have like Alexion was gonna exist up here in Nashville. Like there were any real, I didn't know there was any clubs or anything like that.
Mhm.
Um, let alone just like a DJ community up here. But no, I moved up to Nashville after I graduated high school. Ended up going to Middle Tennessee State University to pursue a degree in music business. Because I told myself, I wanted to work in the music business. And originally, I thought I was going to come back to Atlanta or like move out to New York or LA.
Mhm.
Um, but then when I moved up to Nashville, that's when I realized I was like, you know what? I really like it up here. And I realized it's one of the fastest growing EDM scenes right now in the country. Clubs
It
and
is,
venues
man.
popping up, yes, left and right. I mean, and it's crazy because like, everyone's like Nashville, wait, what? Like they just think of
Yeah.
Nashville as country music, but there is so much more than just country music, honestly, now. And yeah, you can even see it across like kind of Broadway and downtown. Bars that used to play country music now just have straight up like house music and like
Yeah.
bass and D&B, and I'm like, what the hell's happening?
Dude, I was up there for a UKG show the other day. Like it's crazy how like I don't know, because I would go to Nashville like back in the day, and like you said, there wasn't that much, but it's grown a lot and so fast. I
Hmm.
don't know. I mean, it's spreading everywhere, I feel like, but it's a good thing. But
Yeah.
what do you think? Because you live there, so what do you think the scene is like? Because I know there's a few clubs that I've been to that are really really cool. Like Night We Met, I love, is fantastic. I know you've played there as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. Shout out Now We Met. They're the best in my opinion in the city.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
They're cool, but then they're fairly new too. They
Hmm.
haven't been around that long, but also like you said, like places like Broadway that are very tourist focused, you'll still get like DJs there, which is crazy too.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the crazy part. And it's funny. I think it was last year, one of the bars on Broadway, Sports. And for
Hmm.
granted, I'm not really a Broadway DJ. I never really wanted to be. Um, I played like a few times on Broadway, but it was just like,
Hmm.
never my thing really.
Yeah,
But Barstool Sports, one of the kind of the main bars on Broadway, they ended up having of all DJs Afrojack come and play.
I
And
saw
you're
that.
like,
Yeah.
it's like what is happening, Plus, in the addition to, that you have this really good, great community. I don't know if you've heard called Riot Ranch.
Hmm.
And they've been they started last year, and they've been kind of killing it. They have a residency right now every Wednesday night down on Broadway at Whiskey Row, and they just do all EDM, house bass, dubstep. They do takeovers and everything, and their response is really, really good. It got so good actually that they ended up starting doing it, and Now We Met, and ended up just going there. I think switching to John Bon Jovi's. I think now to
Hmm.
starting in a couple weeks because they were like, "Hey, we like what you're doing." And they decided let's just move because we think is a better opportunity. Um, so yeah, I mean, Broadway and EDM is something that you would have never thought would happen, but I
Right.
think it's like, the locals are all here for it. And honestly, a lot of the tourists, like when you think about it, it's like I mean, Nashville's a very touristy city, especially
Hmm.
Broadway. And you see all these guys come in and they're like, they're there for live music. But then, they're gonna get tired of it because every other bar on Broadway is gonna be playing live music. We need to switch up, something like that. They already have, club rooms where, on Broadway where, people are listening to top 40 and stuff like that and
Hmm.
pop music, which is cool. And I think these bars have slowly started picking up. It's like, okay, we're hiring these DJs to play, Pitbull and, all these other artists like that. Um, and these guys are really enjoying it. It's 128 BPM, kind of like dance music. Let's just try
Hmm.
to see, like, let's just see what happens if we do house.
Right.
So yeah, and it's been a huge success, honestly. So,
I also think like people, like you said, people think of Nashville as like for country, you know what I mean? But you've got all these tourists coming in who maybe they're coming in from who knows where, like let's say New York, for example, because you brought up New York. They're used to like going to clubs for dance music. So like why not cater to that on Broadway where the tourists are anyway? You know what I mean? Because maybe they're going down to Nashville, they're not used to country music, you know what I mean? So give them a little bit of what they're used to. I feel like that makes sense. And I hadn't really thought of it like that in the past, but I don't see
yeah.
why not?
Right. And I like, the funny thing is that Nashville was never a country music city. It is just known as
Hmm.
Music City.
Hmm.
So, yes, country is a big identity, and that was kind of like the identities that was kind of like flows through Nashville. But there's a reason why, it's just Music City. It's generic for all types of music and all types of sounds and
Right.
stuff like that. And you bring up a good point too. I mean, yeah, because like tourists, like, they're all going to go to Broadway, and these guys, I mean, all the bars, they're all trying to figure out like how can we make the most money? How can we bring in the most
Hmm.
people? And so you need that variety of, music. So, I feel like right now, let's just say the average bar is, three different floors. First floor is always like live music. Second floor is, like top 40 dance. And like the third floor is all house music, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. They have that variety that you can go kind of mingle in between.
Right. I mean, it's good as just like a business standpoint. You know what I mean? Play a little bit of everything. It's just because you don't know who you're gonna bring in. So why not?
Hmm.
Um, do you think how can I put this? Um, Nashville being Music City, there's a lot of musicians, obviously, of all kinds. There's writers, there's people who play instruments, singers, DJs. I feel like that market can be very saturated for music. Do you think it's gotten that way with DJs since it's a newer kind of thing of like people playing EDM in Nashville?
Yes and no. Um, for sure, yes. If you're really looking at just like the numbers, the amount of
Mm,
DJs here, it has, I would honestly say, double or triple over the past 3 years. So in that aspect, yes, it's become saturated. But the other thing is there's also so many events happening that like honestly every DJ is getting to play some sort of event or capacity, whatever it is. So, like how I like to look at it is, yeah, sure, for instance, like Now We Met, they're, every week they're usually like they throw like the biggest kind of like EDM house shows and stuff like that
mm,
for sure. But then if you take out Now We Met out of the story, there's 10 or 15 others just small parties or afters and stuff like that that these guys will get together and play. Um, and the great thing about Nashville that I've also found, that it doesn't exactly exist in other cities is the strong and tight community that we have
mm,
and where we are constantly helping each other and there's like not really any beef. So
right.
we're constantly trying to help. We're not being like, let me go fuck over someone else so I can get this booking. The majority of us aren't like that. And so we want to help each other and like, however else we can. And I think too, I mean, I'm not sponsored by Now We Met, but Now We Met does a great example of like, putting on a wide variety of different DJs. You see at other clubs, it's like the same 10 or 15 different DJs for support on,
Mm-hmm.
headlining acts. They do a good job at rotating through, DJs based on honestly, one, yes, their style, but two, like there's like a lot of different factors and stuff like that. And the great thing about them too is like, yeah, they have open decks, on Wednesdays and stuff like that. And usually, if you have a really good set of open decks, they might consider you to, for a support slot. So it's an easy way to actually kind of get into the scene up here. And so a lot of guys are doing that. So I guess short answer is it's oversaturated, but it's still easy to kind of play and kind of get your foot in the door, essentially.
It's kind of like Atlanta too, in a sense, where like there's a bunch of DJs, obviously, but there's like so much stuff going on that everybody can have an opportunity. You know what I mean? Like I think I've been having this conversation a lot recently, but like social media makes it seem like you're kind of falling behind a little bit because you're seeing all this stuff going on and you're like, oh, I'm not booked for this, or I'm not doing this, or this guy's doing. It's really easy to compare. You know what I mean? But like, it's not like that. There's that like it's a famine mentality that I think we need to do away with. I think that community is so important and helping each other out is like the biggest thing, especially because we're all, aiming to better our careers and do more and do like level up, I guess you would say. So, like, why not help each other out? Because it's a lot easier to do that together than to do it by yourself.
I agree. And the other big thing is like word spreads fast in the music industry,
Hmm.
and especially here in Nashville. It's kind of a thing like everyone knows everybody, even
Yeah.
outside of just EDM and stuff like that. And so one small bad move and everyone's gonna know about it and they just won't want to book you ever again.
Right.
Um, so even more of an incentive not to be a dick, essentially. Let alone you would think you just want to be because you're a great human being, but
I mean, you would think like, but it's so important to be a nice person, like not only in this industry, but in any industry, because nobody wants to work with anybody who's, not nice. You want to work with somebody who's easy to work with, obviously. So
yeah,
I don't know, but it sounds like common sense, but a lot of people don't know that. I don't know. It's
no,
weird.
yeah.
Um, so when you did move up to Nashville, what were your first bookings like? Was it tough to like work into the scene, or how did it go?
Yeah, it was a little tough, I will say. The great news about kind of moving up to Nashville was the fact that I already kind of I was in Atlanta before, so I kind
Mm,
of had the support and the connections in Atlanta, let alone also too, I knew I had the confidence and the ability to kind of break through the scene because I did that in Atlanta like 3 years
mm,
prior. So I kind of implemented everything I did in Atlanta kind of in Nashville, which made it easier. I kind of already had a game plan of what I wanted to do. But of course,
mm,
like, I couldn't follow it cut, paste, and dry because I'm working with different people and different venues and different clubs. So I got my first booking. I think it was about a year and a half, 2 years after I moved up. I was in college still, and there's a yearly music festival called Deep Tropics up here in Nashville. And one year, they were hosting like a DJ competition, and so submit your mix and then people vote on it and like the best mix plays the festival essentially, right? So I submitted my mix. Long story short, it got to second place. And so that right there kind of I got some recognition. So even though I didn't play or get to play, since I came in
Mhm.
second place, a lot like everyone just kind of saw who I was because they never really heard of my name before. And one day I was just driving and I get a DM from the one of the promoters at this club down in East Nashville. And he said, he's like, hey, our headliner like had to cancel, and so we need another DJ. Do you want to hop on? And it was very last minute. It was literally like the next day, type of thing.
Mhm.
And at the time, this club was kind of like the biggest kind of club in Nashville per se, even though it wasn't that big. It was like a
Mhm.
small, like 100 person room, honestly. But at the time, that's all Nashville had. And so I was like, this promoter was kind of like the biggest in the city. He knew everyone. I was like, okay, I kind of like scored in a little bit. So I showed up and I played, and then I got off and I was like, by the way, like, how did you like? Why'd you just hit me up? Like, like it was just so random, and
Mhm.
it was because of that mix. He said, we saw you came in second place, listened to your stuff, really liked it. I wanted to give you a shot, and the rest is history.
Wow, dude, that's crazy. Like, you just moved there, and you're like, it kind of like it was meant to be. You know what I mean? It's really cool. Do you think so? Okay, couple things from that. Um, do you think it's important for DJs to have like a mixes online that they can point promoters to? Because a lot of people are like, oh, send me a mix, but like I feel like the majority of them aren't listening to mixes, especially if they have a bunch of DJs like sending them mixes all the time. Like they're not gonna spend all day listening to mixes. Um,
Yeah.
and then off of that, what do you think a promoter is really looking for when they're booking a DJ?
Dude, no, yeah, great questions. To answer your first question,
Mm,
mixes used to be kind of the way of the life. Send a
yeah.
promoter a mix, they listen to it, you kind of get booked if it's good. Not really the case anymore, because again, like you said, so many people are, hitting up these promoters. And honestly, the best thing you can do is about who you know, not about, unfortunately, it's more about who you know, like rather than your skill talent. Not
Hmm.
saying skill doesn't matter, because it does matter a lot, but it's also about who you know and kind of like showing face. So what I was also doing too is I was showing face. I was going out to clubs. I was going out to shows. I was just trying to meet other DJs and hang out and talk and do whatever and build relationships with these guys. Um, and over time, and like these promoters, especially here in Nashville, they know when you're at their club because these clubs aren't massive. They aren't big clubs. Like they'll see your face, especially if you're a DJ, they'll remember it. And
Yep.
so they'll be like, okay, this guy's come out, quite a bit. I'm interested about this guy. You know what I mean? And so, definitely face-to-face interaction, introducing yourself when possible, like that's kind of the biggest thing because again, these guys get hundreds of DMs, being like, I want to play, I want to play. Like, yes, that's great, but what can you do to stand out?
Right.
I don't want to hide behind a phone screen and just send DMs and mixes out because that's not really going to do anything. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of like, yeah, mixes are kind of like a little bit outdated. For sure, still do them, because you want to have some sort of basis for promoters to see what you're doing, but don't rely on
Hmm.
just your mix in order to kind of get a booking or anything like that.
Right. I think like I totally agree with you. I it's a tricky thing because like there's so many ways to like go at it these days, you know? You got social media, you could email people, you can call people, but like I think like you said, being in person and like showing face is still the number one thing. Even when like, sending a mix was important, you usually would still have to like meet somebody in person to like introduce yourself and then they'd be like, "Okay, send me your mix." You know what I mean? Like it all stems from like meeting somebody, making that contact and going from there. Um, but I feel like a lot of DJs that are starting now that might not have had that experience kind of just because I get people asking me, they're like, "Hey, do I just like DM this person or like if I get their email, do I just send them an email but then they never open your email or they never check their DMs or whatever it is?" Like I always recommend for people to just, go to the club, see who's there, who you can meet, and it's all about meeting people and making community. Because like even without being a DJ, you still want to be in music for community. You know what I mean? You want to be around people that like the same kind of music or that are there to have a good time. And like I don't know, it's so important.
Yeah. And I think too, like the big thing is like don't like as much as we want to reach out to the promoter itself, we all know 95% of the time that's not going to end up in a yes, or even them opening it. So
Mm-hmm.
as much as even I hate it, I gotta wait for them to reach out to me.
Yeah.
So, it's like kind of like, okay, when's that going to be? I hate that. Maybe if I don't reach out, they don't know who I am. Trust me, they know who you are. They recognize you, even if they don't acknowledge it.
No, 100%. And like the times that I have reached out to somebody like through email or whatever, it's not like you send one email and then they get back to you. It's normally like follow up after follow up after follow up after like making a connection in person or like meeting that person. Like it's not just like, okay, I sent a DM and now I'm going to get the gig. There's a little bit more to it than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And then what was your second
And
question to that?
um what did I say?
I completely forgot what your second question was.
Oh,
So
what was it? Hang on. I think I have it written down. Oh, so what do promoters look for when they're booking?
yeah, so I think really, the Nashville is slightly different, I think, from a lot of the bigger cities, and the
Mm,
fact that promoters really just look for, do you have talent and are you not a dickhead? To be honest,
mm,
like that's like really the only two kind of aspects. Um, one thing I like about this city is the fact that they're not necessarily worried about how many people you can bring to the club.
nice.
Um, I've worked in other places where it's like, okay, you know what? If we're not going to put you on a slot unless we know you can bring X amount of people or sell X amount of tickets. I understand that logic. Clubs are businesses. You need to make money, but at the same time, I'm the DJ. I'm not the promoter. That am I truly believe all the promotion's supposed to fall on you. Now, sure, I'll
Yeah.
post about it, and bring people out, but
Hmm.
that's different from actively trying to sell tickets per se. Um, and so, yeah, up here in Nashville, and kind of generically, yeah, it's like, it's about stylistic talent. But again, just like also just build relationships and be personal with these guys. As much as it's a business, we like music industry is very laid back and very chill. So, like you don't. Have to be all super, super formal.
Hmm.
Like I think some of my kind of biggest and best bookings that I've had, it's all just been through friendships essentially,
Yeah.
and like, oh, you're a homie, and you have great music and you kind of proved yourself, we'll give you a
That's
shot kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. And like the whole like how many tickets can you sell thing is very like New York
Hmm.
mindset. I feel like I don't know why specifically New York, but like all the conversations that I've had with promoters from that city specifically are like, yeah, do you know people here? Like how many people can you bring to the club? And it's like, yeah, I can bring some people, but like that's not that's not what we're, what in the business of, you know what I mean? That's kind of
Yeah.
their job, you know? It's
And
it's
in my,
weird. Like,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, and like in my opinion too, I think that if you're focusing on how many tickets the DJ can sell, you're not going to put the right DJ on the lineup. You're putting on,
Mm,
how many people they can bring to the club. So you might have like a techno artist headline, and you might have like a tech house DJ, open up, which doesn't kind of mix together, you
I feel
know?
like that's why we're seeing like celebrity DJs pop up as headliners now. Like you have like the Love Island DJs and that kind of thing. Like I think
Yeah.
that's where that's coming from because all the girls are like, "Oh, we need to go to the club because this guy's playing." Like I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah.
um, do you so okay, you moved to Nashville, you start getting these gigs. Your first gigs that you were playing, I know you were saying you were like still in high school when you were doing Believe. Um, did that like were you playing just what you liked to listen to, or were you like kind of learning how to read a room, or what was the vibe like? Those like early gigs.
So, oh God, the first ones I believe, and by the way, it happens to all of us where our first gig is for like five people because that's what it was
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Yep.
I had like like super early, so I was like 10 to 11 or something like that, like right when doors opened. I was in the Wish Lounge and I was so scared because like this is my first booking and it, Believe was also like a pretty reputable club, and so
Mm.
like it wasn't like I was going to some smaller place. It's kind of like, in my opinion, I was thinking, oh shit, if I fuck up, I'm never gonna get booked here again.
Yeah.
So because of that, I like literally had like a whole entire curated track list of what I was going to play when because I was so nervous. And so I worked on this track list. It was funny because I worked on this track list for like 2 months just to play for like 10
Jeez.
people.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I need this to be perfect, right? And so I honestly like that first club gig, I didn't even read the room at all.
Mm,
I just kind of played whatever I wanted to. I played what I wanted to play and what I also thought like fit. And
mm,
thank God what I put together like fit the vibe and everyone liked. So it was a success that way. Um, but no, I had no idea how to read a room.
yeah,
I guess like I did kind of like in my early DJ years because funny enough, I started off as a wedding DJ.
nice.
So I kind of learned how to like read the room and like I did like proms and like high school dances. I did a few of those when I was like
Mm,
a teenager and stuff like that with company. But like on a club level, yeah, never. Um and so I didn't really start learning how to read the room until like I think a few gigs in, and that's when I started,
mm.
kind of more so kind of freestyling it and kind of playing what the crowd wanted.
Gotcha. So that brought me to my next question. How do you prepare sets now? Is it kind of just like you have tracks that you like that like you're gonna not put them in a particular order, but like they kind of fit the vibe and you kind of see where the night goes? Or like do you have like maybe your first couple tracks picked out and like your closing track picked out and you kind of freestyle from there?
Yeah, I think it depends on kind of like
Mm,
what the night, like for instance, like tomorrow, I guess this will come out after. So, but
mm,
tomorrow night I'm playing at Navi Met and I'm doing a B2B opening up for Leila Benitez. And so it's gonna be
nice.
a very kind of like it's like a melodic techno kind of like set.
Mm,
And like I'm playing like 10 to 12 essentially, and I for tomorrow's set, I guess it's gonna be more so just kind of like I have an opening track, and then like the last like five tracks I know what I'm gonna be playing. But other than that, it's just kind of like I have a couple different playlists of like prime time tracks and kind of like warm up tracks.
mm,
And then I'm just gonna be kind of like going back and forth between those playlists and mixing it in key essentially. Um
gotcha.
and a lot of the time too, it's like, especially for like these shows like this and Now We Met, what I like to do now is I like to keep it a combination of like, songs that people already know. So like for
Mm,
instance, like tomorrow night, I gotta feel like kind of like Cassian tracks and stuff like that and like remixes that like people are gonna know and they're gonna like sing their lungs out to. But then there's also gonna be a lot of like underground stuff and a lot of like ID. I've been implementing a lot of like IDs and stuff like that now into my sets.
nice.
And I've been utilizing in-flight like crazy and just like getting
Hmm.
promos from like small guys and stuff like that. People are constantly sending me promos for the radio show that I'll play out. So it's very informal how I do it. I literally just have a primetime playlist and a warm-up playlist and make sure I
Nice.
have a bunch of different tracks and different keys. And I'm like, all right, here we go, I guess. Like,
I do a similar thing. And like I like to keep it, like you said, like a mix of recognizable songs, but also like stuff that people might not have heard. You know what I mean? Because it kind of part of it is like, you're in service of the crowd and you like want them to hear songs that they like, but also like some of it is educational. You know what I mean? Like this is a really cool song that has like 1,000 plays on SoundCloud that you've never heard, or like whatever it is. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, it was funny because before this, I guess when I last played, I was opening for Sarah DeWarren,
Mm,
and we ended up having we were like direct support for her, which is great. And I was like, what am I gonna play? Because this is a little bit harder than what my usual style is and stuff like that. I'm used to playing 126, 128 melodic techno. Like this is like
mm,
130 to 134, like just techno.
mm.
And so I can't say the name, but shout out this undisclosed DJ who he's been blowing up the scene right now on tour and stuff like that. But he ended up sending me a list of like 200 tracks that he made mashups for that aren't
Whoa.
out, never been released, and that he just has in his vault for his USB essentially.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna test some of these out because I was like, why not?
Hmm.
And that Sarah DeWarren set ended up being a set of 95% all IDs, either by me or by him.
That's
And
cool.
everyone was like, I've never heard anything like it. And that's why I wanted to hear because I'm like, of course you did it in my mind because the track's never been out yet.
Right.
But I'm trying to gain that same reaction from people. I've never heard anything like that. I want to, as much as I want to play tracks everyone knows, I want to educate people at the same time.
Hmm.
Which kind of brings me into my next point. I kind of want like a little bit deviate from this, but because it's on my mind right now. But educating people about techno in Nashville. That is
Yeah.
something that me and some of the promoters here in the city have been trying to do for a while now. I haven't done it like all myself. Like I'm not trying to get all the
Mm-hmm.
credit for it. I mean, it's a lot of the promoters' credit too for doing what they're doing as well.
Hmm.
But techno was never a thing really when I kind of came up here. And
Hmm.
while I wasn't the one to pioneer techno up here by any means, it's definitely like I've like helped educate people a little bit. I feel like and kind of like gotten people onto, new stuff. Um, because I guess I don't know, like people in Nashville are like techno is way too hard or techno is just too much for me. I can't handle
Yeah.
it. Um, yeah.
It's kind of similar in Atlanta because like Atlanta is a very bass heavy city, like a lot of dubstep and 140. But I love techno. I love all kinds of things. But like there's pockets of like techno in the city. You know what I mean? You just gotta find them. That they might be like a little bit out of the way. And now like places like Believe and like District and stuff, for example, in Atlanta are booking a lot of like you know techno artists. I saw Charlotte DeWitt not too long ago.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
Jester just played at the Wish Lounge. So like it's happening, but it's like still a very like bass music oriented city. So like
Hmm.
my sets and this I'm not complaining. I love playing like a little bit of everything, but I go from like techno, hard techno, some like Euro trance kind of stuff, and like bass like 140 influences. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like a hodgepodge, like all over the place. I'm kind of like bouncing around from genre to genre, but like I feel like you made a good point. Like in Nashville, I'm not sure because I guess Nashville never really had the biggest EDM scene until recently. So
Mm.
like I was curious if that's probably house to begin with, just because that's the most accessible. And now it's kind of like I said, I just saw like a UKG show there, and like there's a little bit of it, like other styles creeping in that people might not be as familiar with there.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I think too. Like the Nashville, I think was very much split in the middle. Well, it was more so house actually. Like when
Hmm.
I first came moved up here, but then bass music kind of started becoming really, really popular. Um, like it's actually funny. Most of the venues here, I feel like, are all bass music, and
Mm,
then most of the clubs here are all house music. That's
interesting.
how I kind of see it. So, and like like over time bass music started kind of like blowing up and certain clubs shifted away from house music and decided just to go bass only and vice versa. New places kind of opened up, and then we have these big music venues kind of open up like the Pinnacle, kind of like
Hmm.
some of like the cool Roxy in Atlanta and whatnot, where then you're like actually bringing in bigger artists like Subtronics to play and stuff like that. And so I see it now, like right now in the scene, I feel like we're in a good mix of kind of everything. We're like it's like 50% bass music, 50% house music. And then within
Yeah.
just house music in itself, there's a good mix of like techno, tech house, minimal, UKG, etc. I like it's kind of turning into a melting pot almost, which is,
Hmm.
what I really like about it.
Yeah, no, I love that too because like me personally in my sets, I love to switch things up. Like I can't play one genre for too long or like get like like I love techno for example, but like if I do an all techno set, like halfway through I'm like, okay, like let me throw a curveball in here just to switch it up. I don't know what it is. And like I've seen more and more DJs doing that too where like say a house DJ will play like a dubstep song in the middle of their set just like I don't know if it's to wake people up or just like randomly. But it's
Yeah,
it's one thing that I love. So I do appreciate like the melting pot aspect to it.
for sure, for sure.
Also, like I think that it's good for like people who might be new to the EDM scene to get more than just one style of music so you can really find what you like. You know what I mean? Like if you're going out and all you hear is like tech house at every club, you're going to be like, "Okay, this is EDM." But really there's like so much, if you really do a deep dive, there's so much other stuff. Um
Yeah.
I don't know, it's interesting. And like
It,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I feel like when like I got started like 10, 12 years ago now, and it was so different than what it is now because the scene has grown so much, but it's also still like widely unknown for people who aren't in it, if that makes sense. Like it seems like it's familiar to us because we're used to it, we're in the scene. But like somebody who just listens to like top 40 would have no idea what we're talking about when we say like UKG, for example.
Yeah. I know exactly. And like I think too, it's like because of it, it's a big melting pot. And this goes back to like how I said it's kind of oversaturated, but also at the same time not because like yeah, we have a lot of DJs here, but they're all doing their own different styles.
Hmm.
So while there might be, I'm gonna make up a number here, it's probably not right, but like 200 DJs in Nashville, like there might only be like 10 techno DJs. And
Right.
so that's where it feels like, okay, I'm only I don't want to say competing because I'm not competing, but for lack of
Mhm.
better words, competing with 10 other guys
Yeah.
versus 200 other guys. So that it makes it a lot more manageable to, get bookings and, do all that good
Yeah.
stuff.
Do you think so, like using your example of like 10 techno DJs, do you think that makes a problem where like there's the same people being booked over and over again? Especially like if it's a techno show, you know what I mean? It might be different because like if you have a techno night, then like a bass night, UKG night, house night, whatever it is, it kind of seems like different people on the lineups because you have different styles to pick from. But like one thing I've seen in Atlanta, for example, like certain clubs will pick the same handful of people and not really like cycle through all the talent that we have in the city very often.
Yeah, yeah. And like you bring up a good point with that. And like let's just say I'm gonna use the number 10 techno
Mm,
DJs. I feel like there is a kind of like a pretty good rotation of us all. And like at least I can't speak on like tech house and minimal and all that other stuff, but at
mm,
least for us in techno, I feel like we're all doing slightly different kind of like elements of techno. So like for instance, like I'm more kind of melodic techno, and that's kind of like there's not really anyone else in our group that's kind of like that
mm,
versus someone else is like all like peak time techno and like 140 and above and stuff like that. So in a sense, like yes, like we are like whenever there's like let's just say a melodic techno show, I'm always gonna get put on it. But at the same time, how Nashville rolls is like, a techno show only might happen like, once every 3 months or once
mm.
every 2 months or something like that. So yes, while it's kind of like the same people, it doesn't feel like the same people because it's not like techno every week. It's spread
Yeah,
out
it
across the
it gets
year.
spaced out a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha, gotcha. Um, Interesting. I'm like I've been to Nashville for shows a handful of times, but like I still want to like learn more about it because I feel like there's so much that I like haven't experienced there yet. Because like
Dude.
before when I used to go, it was like we're going to Broadway again, and it's like the same kind of like seeing bands or like whatever it is, but like it's a growing scene and it's really cool.
Yeah, and like I think too, it's like as much as I love EDM and like electronic
Mm,
music, I think Nashville's really kind of got me to branch out of my comfort zone and
mm,
like listen to different stuff and kind of interact with like a lot of different stuff. Like so for instance, it's like literally like my day job is in the music business and stuff like that, and I'm working mostly with like country music and stuff like that. And so it's just kind of
mm,
like yeah, I listen to EDM and I play EDM, but at the same time too, I've met so many amazing people in the country music scene, whether it's artists or managers or A&Rs and stuff like that. And so, and like it's funny because like even a lot of these guys are like they enjoy house music. They go to like
mm,
house shows and stuff like that. And so um and like they work a lot closely with each other, especially because now you're seeing this kind of big trend in country EDM and doing, like David Guetta remixing Shabuzi's, track, bar song
mm.
and stuff like that. And like, so you're seeing like a lot of these kind of like EDM country fusion takeovers because they realize that it's like, like this is a cool thing to do and it's not really been done before. How can we
Right.
combine the two different industries?
I also think that's like bringing in a new section of fans into the EDM realm that wouldn't have been familiar with it, otherwise. I think it's really
Hmm.
cool. And like house is one of the most accessible genres for people because you can just kind of like throw it on in the background and like, if you're not at a show, like you're just listening to it, like you can have a conversation or like just it's a chill thing to put on, you know what I mean? Versus like if you're talking, I've been trying to have a conversation with like tear out dubstep playing in the background. It's like a little bit different.
Oh God, don't even get me started with that yet. Oh
um
my God.
So, okay, cool. Awesome. I wanted to get your pick your brain on Nashville a little bit because you're more like
Dude.
knowledgeable on it than me.
Oh,
Um,
literally, yeah.
it's great. Let's talk about your production journey a little bit because
Yeah.
I know you've been deep into that, especially recently. I feel like I see you on Instagram like every other day, like just cooked up a new ID, like new music, and I'm like, man, he's cooking.
Right. Let me tell you, dude, that it's been exhausting kind of a little bit
Mhm,
actually. So one of my biggest things, like I kind of went through this phase end of last year where it's like I need to market more so than I need to produce.
mhm,
Because essentially if you're going to be putting out great music, you need to market it correctly. Otherwise, as much as I hate to say it, what's the point in producing? Because like, yeah,
Yeah.
we produce because we like it, but we also need the numbers and stuff behind it.
Hmm.
But no, like I feel like recently too, it's like I've now kind of started getting back in the game because like last year I was kind of like graduating like school and all that, and I
Mm.
was kind of like applying for jobs, and this job market's been fucking tough per se,
Yeah.
and so I was like literally had to take a break and just kind of get that. But once I kind of like started like my 9 to 5 out here right now in the industry and stuff like that, and kind of like getting settled in, I kind of started picking back up on ideas and production. And I think I got like honestly, I got really inspired just too by like this new wave of melodic techno that's kind of coming through. It's kind of
Hmm.
like this tech housey kind of melodic techno aspect, which is what I really like. And so I it's just kind of like started hopping in the studio and kind of creating stuff. And like it's funny because like for every idea that I post on my story, it's not necessarily a good idea or an idea that like I'm actually gonna release. You know, there's still like there's still things that like are just sitting in the vault that have just never been released, probably nor will never be released because of whatever reason it is. But I've kind of like I gained back my confidence, and I think it was because of the fact of like I gained back my confidence and my drive because I wasn't working on music for such a long period of time last year, really.
Yeah.
Um, and so I kind of like was able to kind of go in fresh. Plus, like I ended up moving places, actually kind of started building a little bit of a proper studio and stuff like that. And that
Hmm.
in itself made me feel a lot more inspired to do. And then also too, I think the big thing too is like with this whole entire production journey is like, I'm kind of in this phase where I'm just eager to learn and kind of like I'm back on this kind of like grind phase where I'm just like want to grind out. Like I get home, just want to produce and just kind of get as much stuff as I can done. And so then I kind of have this like, backlog of tracks. So then what I like to do is I like to produce for, let's just say a month at a time. And then
Mm.
the next month I don't produce at all and just focus on marketing strategy and sending tracks out to labels and doing everything I need to do on that business end. And then going back to producing again when I don't have a writer block anymore, essentially.
That's cool. That's a really smart idea. And like I feel like too being a DJ and being able to play your songs out is a big cheat code that like people might not be aware of. Like if you have a show and you have all these IDs that you're sitting on, you can drop a few of them in and see how the crowd reacts. Cause like
Yeah.
for me, I like to put out a song per month, but I make so much more than one song per month. You know what I mean? I might have like five or whatever that I just like cook up that are sitting there. So if I
Yeah.
have a show, I'll test it. Sometimes it's garbage, right? And I'll just drop like some trash in my set, but then I'm like, hey, now we know. Like, not that
No.
one.
I know, and I'm kind of getting to that confidence barrier, but because like I'd be playing, I'm playing quite a bit of IDs and like releases
Mm,
out of my like in my sites and stuff like that. But like for instance, like tomorrow night, I have this one idea that I just kind of like finished up that I'm like I'm kind of on the fence about if I even want to play out because I'm my opinion, I think it's trash.
mm,
And like the mix and master isn't right, and I'm like if the mix and master doesn't sound right, it's not gonna go to the club and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, and it's also just like kind of like still like somewhat of a rough idea. And so I'm kind of trying to get past that confidence barrier of like, you know what? Like almost say fuck it, just play it because like
Mm,
they aren't gonna know it's your track and they aren't gonna know, like they're gonna forget about it anyways. I just need to
right.
see the reaction. And so I'm just kind of like trying to work against that barrier because it's real, honestly, of like DJs like being, I don't want to say too scared, but like
Mm,
they don't have the confidence to play their own stuff because they don't think it's good enough.
yeah. And also, like, a lot of people focus on the mix and a master, which, like, makes sense if you're playing it in a club, you want it to hit right on the speakers. But like a normal person listening to something doesn't really care about the mix and the master. They want to hear a good song. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
that should help a lot of the times. If somebody is like, "Oh, my mix doesn't sound right. I'm not going to play it." Like it doesn't really matter.
No. And also, how do you know your mix isn't going to sound right unless you play it too at the same time?
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Exactly. You mentioned the back to back you're doing. How do you approach back to backs? Because so okay, some back to backs that I've done have been planned, where like I know the
mhm.
person that I'm playing with. Sometimes my back to backs, like I'll show up to a club and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna have you with this person today," and I'm like, "Oh, word!" And I've never played with them, and that
Yeah.
can either go really well and be really fun, or like you're trying to like save the crowd. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's a toss up really. But what's your strategy for back to backs?
Yeah, so I think so for a lot of like kind of like the bigger shows, especially like great examples that was at District.
Mm,
I planned everything out completely. I knew I was going to be going back to back with the person I was going back to back with, and like we literally had a full track like the day of we put together a full track list of what we were going to play, where
mm,
we were going to mix out and do all of that. For tomorrow's set, that's going to be kind of more of a freestyle kind of thing. I'm going back to back with Squid. She's awesome. I've known her for a few
nice.
years now. We've our first back to back was a few months ago, so we already kind of know how we operate and kind of how we
Mm,
work, which helped a lot. And we also did a really great fucking job at it. And so because of that, we kind of already have this flow down this rhythm. So literally for this one, it's literally like what we did was we just have like a class Spotify playlist, and we just kind of drop tracks in that we're like we like that we're gonna play to kind of get the
mm,
vibe. And then I kind of what I was talking about earlier. I have two different playlists. I have like primetime tracks, warm up tracks, and then like I guess the third playlist for all my Alexion releases.
mm,
And Sydney has her exact kind of like same setup. And then tomorrow night when we play, we're literally just gonna freestyle it and kind of just kind of like gauge off each other's energy and kind of just gauge off the room. Um, and it's really fun to do. Like at first, it kind of got me really nervous because I was like, I don't know, like, oh, what if I fuck up or like especially in melodic techno, you kind of got to mix and key.
yeah.
Otherwise, it sounds pretty bad. And so it's like, oh, like what if I don't have a track to mix and key with? It's like I have to do like a horrible transition and stuff like this. And like, or like, oh, like what if I don't have enough like good songs that I want to play and like I'm running out and
Hmm.
stuff like that. But I've learned at the end of the day, it's really, really fun and like to deviate and kind of just like let loose and just kind of play whatever the fuck you want to play.
Right.
Whether
That's
it's easy.
I'm definitely at that last point that you mentioned. Just play whatever you want, because like at the end of the day, like yeah, you need to fit. Obviously, like if you're opening, you want to fit that vibe. But
Right.
like depending on where you're at in the night, like your set time, that kind of matters. But besides that, like I'm playing a lot of closing slots, and like for example, tomorrow night at Believe, I'm doing 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. and
Hmm.
it's a face to face event. Have you ever done one of those?
No, I want to do one so bad though. I don't even know. All right, how do you? I don't know. Have you done one before yet? Is this your first
So
one?
this will be my first one, and I have no idea how it works. And I asked
No.
the promoter out because the promoter DJs as well, and I was
Yeah.
like, he called me about it, and he was like, "Hey, would you want to do this face to face event?" And I was like, "I would love to. Do you know how it works?" And he's like, "I have no idea." So my understanding is that you have CDJs and a mixer. The other person is facing you with CDJs and a mixer, and
Hmm.
then both of your outputs are summed somehow to like the house board. So you need to communicate with the person that you're face to face with, so they know when you're transitioning out of a song, or like when they need to cut their song or you need to cut your song. You need to have some kind of a signal. I don't know
Yeah.
if there's a screen where you can see their waveforms like on each person's
Hmm.
side. That would make sense. But then still, you need to know when to cut your song out. You know what I mean? Um,
Right. Right.
I have no idea, but
Yeah.
I say that because the preparation that we've done for this set tomorrow, I made an intro track that's literally like I'll send it to you. It's pretty funny. But it's like this is like whatever face to face whatever. Um, do you guys know how face to face works? Like it's the Smash Bros announcer voice,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah. Oh
like,
my gosh.
do you guys know how a face to face works? Because we have no idea. We're just gonna play some music. I don't know. Like it's so funny. Like, just being completely honest about it. Because like if something goes wrong, sorry.
Yeah, because
But
I'm wondering, yeah, that's like how do you
I've
like is there a waveform? Like do you hear do you have to be matched by ear for everything? Like
right. I have no idea. So we're gonna see. It should be interesting. I'll let you know how it goes. But so the preparation for that set was like I made that intro track and I have nothing else. So I'm just gonna go off of what they play. Cause like I have a good creative music, and it's supposed to be like more of a house theme show. I like to play a little bit of everything, so we'll see what happens. I'm just gonna have fun with it. But I don't know.
no,
We'll
I love
see.
that. That's amazing. Yeah, let me know how it goes.
I sure will. You will be hearing from me for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your radio show for a little bit.
Yeah.
The Unfounded Radio. How did you get into that? And I know that you're on One Mix now, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Talk about that.
So, this was actually Unfounded Radio has kind of been a thing for 2 years now.
Hmm.
Going on 3 years actually. I started back in July 2023. And it was simply just kind of a way to I wanted to showcase a bunch of like just great music from underground producers that just simply like can't get heard essentially.
Mhm.
And like that was kind of the goal. And so I ended up I was on One Mix Radio just from the start, and I literally was just like searching up radio stations and trying to just contact different radio stations, and then ended up securing a deal with One Mix Radio, which was great at the time. And I just kind of like I would pull tracks from my in-flight that I would get sent because I get sent like 50, 60 promos every week, and I just kind of pull some
Mhm.
of the best things and put it together into a mix. And so I did that for about 2 years. It was very low key. I didn't promote anything really at all. Like it wasn't
Mhm.
really like nothing, you know. And so I like earlier last year, like I would say like December of last year, I kind of had this revelation and I was like, you know what? Like I've been doing this for like 2 years now. I'm on like episode like 50 or something like this. Like I've done 50 of these things and like because it's every other week. And I'm just what am I why am I doing this if no one's gonna know what the fuck I'm doing? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I got like I think I was averaging like about like 60 or 70 like listeners on the radio station, which was like cool and stuff like that at the time. But I'm
Yeah.
like my followers know nothing about it.
Right.
So, um, I that's when I kind of did a whole rebrand, and this is kind of like the new idea I've been kind of thinking about for a while now, which is still kind of keep the whole entire aspect of, hey, we're gonna showcase underground music from raw ass producers and from, DJs that, are essentially undiscovered or unfound. That's kind of how I got the
Mhm.
name from.
Nice.
Um, and not only am I gonna do that, I'm gonna start doing guest mixes.
Nice.
So we launched the Instagram page, kind of like launched a whole new rebrand, new logos, new everything, new assets and content. And every single week, we bring on, or every other week, we bring on a new DJ to do a guest mix for us. And these guys, I just honestly just find on Instagram.
Mhm.
Some I've known for a while that I'm just like want to give them an opportunity. Other guys, I'm just like just DM them and stuff like that, and hope for the best kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so, the goal is for them to showcase their sound and their style because I think it aligns better with the Unfound Radio's brand, which is to, showcase artists. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
can play other artists' music, but if the artist does it themselves, I think it helps them even more. And so with that, we're also doing a lot of like kind of like interviews and stuff like that with these guest mixes. So intertwined, throughout the show, I ask a few different questions, and they kind of like give their response to everything, whether it's like about an upcoming release or like how they got started and stuff like that. To kind of like let the world know who they are and kind of like what their upcoming plans are.
Mhm.
So ever since we launched that, it's been a really, really great success. We've had our listener count has almost like tripled essentially since we like, launched it and stuff like that. We're getting a few hundred live listeners just for that hour on the show itself, which is amazing on top of, what else we get on SoundCloud and one-on-one track lists. And I'm now kind of in this process of right now just kind of building a community, around these kind of like guys and these DJs. So, super excited actually. April 26th. This is the first time I'm actually talking about it, but I'm hosting the first Unfound Radio kind of event takeover.
Nice.
It's going to be at Now We Met, which is going to be really exciting, and it's five of us, and all these guys are amazing. We got one guy from Atlanta, one guy from Detroit, two from Nashville, and stuff like that, and then me, and it's going to be now just curated music and letting them kind of showcase their sounds. Um, and so I want to be doing more of these events. I'm working on one in Detroit. I'm working on another one in Atlanta and stuff like that, to where we can kind of take the brand to other places and really give these DJs in that city, like a time and for them to shine and kind of like put their sound out. So I'm really hopeful in these next few months that this radio show is kind of gonna kind of like get bigger, and I'm gonna build more of a community, and it's gonna be more than just a radio show. It's gonna be a brand almost essentially. So we'll have, different like, sounds and artists and interviews and, events, open air stuff, pool parties and whatnot.
I love that, dude. And like giving people that platform is so important, I feel like, because it's kind of giving back to the community that helped, put you where you are, if that makes sense. So like
Yes.
I preach that a lot because I love like helping people out and just, whenever anybody asks me a question or like needs something, I try to drop whatever I'm doing and help out because like it's just giving back and being grateful for like the position that you're in and helping lift somebody else up. Because again, it goes back to community and like, it's a lot easier to help each other out than to do it by yourself.
Right. Exactly.
You mentioned kind of marketing, growing not only the radio show, but also like getting your own music out there. What has been your method for like making sure, people learning about you, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So it's a few different things really.
Mm,
I got the social media aspect of it, which is what I've been doing right now is my goal is right now I gotta post once a week and it can only
mm,
be high quality content, and stuff like that. I have this certain aesthetic I'm trying to follow. And so with that comes photo shoots and stuff like that and brand shoots, and every single
mm,
time I play, I get really, really good content from that, and film these sets. So then I use all that content to help with my social media. So, constantly just kind of like I don't want to say spamming because that's not the right word, but constantly reminding people of whatever it is that I want to promote at the time.
mm,
Um, I think it's also important to note, like, I think it's just as good to promote some of your new stuff on Instagram and yeah, other social media, pages, as well as also to showcase your talents and also like share your successes. So whether that's you just had a track come out and you post a whole entire thing about like what the track did, like it got on the Beatport
mm,
Top 100 charts, it got this DJ support, etc. I think that's a really good way because then people kind of see, oh wow, like you were able to do this. Like we
hmm.
like that. That's awesome. That's amazing. Um, and it kind of builds like some respect on your name too that way.
Some credibility. Yeah.
And credibility, exactly. So that's kind of one aspect is like kind of social media. The other aspect I've been leaning a lot to is like in-flight and DJ promo campaigns.
Hmm.
So I work with a PR company for all my releases pretty much, and or the label depending on if they do their own in-flight campaign, which some do for me. And they just send it out to a bunch of different DJs. I give the report and it shows what DJ downloaded it, what DJ is going to play it, and stuff like that. So it's a really good way of kind of getting your track early in front of a bunch of different DJs. I've also over kind of like the years and just between playing shows, I built up, a good pretty like sizable list of just like DJ promo contacts and personal contacts
Hmm.
that I reach out to individually, just being like, hey, I got new music, like would love for you to support it kind of thing. And so like that helps too a lot with the DJ support. And that kind of goes back to I do DJ support for credibility. Honestly, most 99% of the time, even if your track gets played at an anime show, people aren't going to go download it or listen to it because they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it's for that credibility and it's for the labels to see. In terms of like kind of, building a fan base and kind of like getting viewers or listeners to kind of like listen to your stuff on repeat and adding it to playlists, that honestly really just kind of comes down to playlisting and like Spotify playlisting and honestly just Beatport, like how many sales you can get on Beatport.
Mm,
Um, Definitely on Spotify, I think like you kind of got to be careful in that aspect. Don't pay to, don't pay for streams essentially is kind of the best
hmm.
way to put it. Um, my kind of secret into that is I have a kind of curated list of guys that like they're the most random people. Like I have one guy, the dude is literally like living in the middle of nowhere in Mexico. Like he's just some random dude, like some like 800 followers on Instagram, whatever it is, no posts. But this dude is just like a random dude living in Mexico, and he like has a Spotify playlist with like 110,000 likes on it. And just because he got lucky, I think, and he just had a playlist that blew up. And so I tracked down this dude because like you gotta do some research on these playlists to figure out who the owner is and like find their social media profiles. And then I go find this dude, and like, this dude has like 800 followers on Instagram, follows like 50 people, and like is followed by like Cassian and John Summit or something like that.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I just like DM him. I'm like, hey, like new music, can you add it to your playlist, kind of thing, like that.
Yeah.
And so getting on good Spotify playlists does help you in return, kind of getting into that organic kind of stuff and kind of getting into more of
Hmm.
like an organic kind of reach where people then, find your music on these playlists and put it in there, kind of stuff. And like that. I also think too, it's a good thing not to put all your eggs in one basket. So just don't do Spotify and Beatport. Also focus on Apple Music. Hell, focus on Deezer. Literally got a
Yeah.
Deezer editorial playlist out of nowhere, what is like the most random thing for my last track, New York Heat. But it's a thing and people still listen, especially being in the music business. I'm working a lot with other DSPs and I know too that Spotify, yes, it is the biggest one, but it pays the least. And honestly, yeah, their market share is the biggest, but you'll be surprised how many people are still on Tidal and Deezer to, search
Yeah.
for music, and stuff like that.
Deezer is so underrated. I feel like I don't hear anybody talking about Deezer.
I know, I know. Yeah, it was funny because like I look at Deezer, I was like Deezer, really? And I look at the
Hmm.
editorial playlist has like some like 400,000 likes, whatever it is. I'm like, I guess
Yeah.
while listening to this, it has 400,000 likes. You know what I mean? Like,
It's
so
like kind of unrelated, but I I know people who just listen to Pandora, and I'm like, who are you? Like how do
right,
you how do you operate like this? But I mean,
yeah,
hey, to each their own, I guess.
I
Um,
know.
a couple more. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but what advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out wanting to produce and DJ?
Yeah, you gotta have the grind. You gotta have the
Mm,
grit. You literally can't be lazy in this field. Just constantly, just produce, get your name out there, do whatever you have to do. Like if that means like if you're in school, if that means you get off of school, work your part-time job, and then come home at like 12 o'clock at night and then produce for 3 or 4 hours. If that's what you got to do, do that. Don't, in my opinion, don't be sitting around watching TV like that or playing video games. Like you got to go out there and do as much as possible. So network is kind of like the big thing. Meet as many people, DM as many DJs, support as many DJs as possible. Talk to these guys. Don't build just business relationships, build friendships. That's the big thing because people can spot when you're just trying to BS them and just like, get them for, because of their contacts. So build actual friendships that you want to foster and keep because they're just great people.
right.
Um, the music and the producing, like, yeah, that's going to evolve over time, but I think the more you do it, the better you're going to get. And also, like, don't be afraid to ask for feedback. And if someone tells you it's shit, like, take that with a grain of salt and just from it, and stuff like that. So, I think it's very much of it, just like it's a hustle. And I mean, I think we've all kind of experienced that, you and I included, of, just like
Mm,
constantly feeling like we're producing and doing something, but we weren't getting anywhere. I still have those days. And it's gonna be cliche as hell to say, and I feel like I shouldn't say this because everyone says this, but literally it's just like you gotta wait for the right moment and you just gotta keep producing, producing, producing until something happens.
the more you do it, the more opportunities you give yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like if
yeah,
if you produce one song a year, that's only one shot you're giving yourself. You know what I mean? But like if you're putting out music constantly, those are all opportunities for something to happen.
yeah. And like the two biggest things too, I think, is one, take every opportunity in the beginning. I wouldn't say that necessarily down in the future when you kind of do start kind of getting a name for yourself. You don't have to, but immediately
Mm,
starting out, yes. Like the whole entire Deep Tropics like or guest mix thing that I was doing,
mm,
DJ mix submission form thing, I was like, I shouldn't even do this. Like, what are the odds? That
mm,
was essentially what led me to kind of get to where I am in the Nashville scene. So take every opportunity, and then also to know how to market yourself right, stand out about like how can you stand out above others,
right.
Use social media to your advantage. And kind of, like post high quality stuff and like build a brand and a name for yourself. It's going to get you far because if you're recognized, if you're able to stand out from everyone else, then you will get booked. And when you do get booked, also too, is like don't just try to party and have a good time. Like there's
Right.
a time and place for that, short, but like some of like the sets I spent the most time on were like some of my very first like sets ever, including that Believe one,
Mm,
where I would spend like a months for an hour set prepping for
yeah.
everything just to play for 10 people because I was like, I mean, as crazy as it's gonna sound, I mean, yeah, like these promoters are gonna hear it's like, oh damn, he had a really, really good set, even though it's for not a lot of people. I know this dude can DJ, you
Yep.
know, because most of the time what's gonna happen is they're not gonna put you in front of a room with 1,000 people as your first booking.
Right.
You gotta blow them out of the water early, and so you don't get into your mind, oh, I'm gonna be playing for a small room. I'm gonna slack off and not, try.
Mm,
Always going with the mentality of this is kind of controversial, but always go in the mentality of if you are going to go, like if it's whatever you're going to go into, play it or do it like you're going to get fired the next day.
yeah.
So, constantly like put your best work forward, and think, oh, if I fuck up, I'm never going to get booked again
Yeah.
because that lit a fire under my ass. And ever since then, I have kind of had the same mentality to get better and better every time.
Also, you never know who's listening. You never know who's at a set, so like why not give it your all every time? Because maybe that night is the night where there's somebody who can really help you out with something. You never
And
know.
funny, yeah. And funny thing, I actually had that happen to me in my first booking.
Hmm.
When I was playing at this club in East Nashville was I got off and someone was like, "Hey, I want to introduce you to this guy," and I kind of came over to them. Like we're in this like little small alleyway in the green room, whatever it is, like super super narrow and tight, and like
Mm.
he's like "Are you Alexion?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "No, I really enjoyed your set." I was like, "Thank you." And I noticed at the time, I was like, he looked familiar, and he was like he was literally standing in the corner during my entire set, and then get in an empty room just watching me. And
Yeah.
then I was like, "Oh wait, this is the guy." And that guy ended up being a label manager for a pretty big record label in melodic techno. And
Man,
he knew a lot of pretty big contacts in the industry. So it kind of goes to show, yeah, you never know who's watching, even in
you
an indie
never
room.
know. And
Yeah,
also like interactions when you meet somebody, just being a good person, being genuine, not, being like puffing your chest, being like, yeah, I'm this big DJ, you know what I mean? Like just be humble, be down to earth, and just like be a good person, be somebody that people would want to talk to. You know what I mean? Because
exactly.
you
Right.
never know who you're meeting, who could help you out. Just be a good person. I can't stress it enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, this has
Yeah,
been a good talk. I really
dude.
appreciate you.
Of
I
course.
know
Thank
we've
you.
been friends for a while and like we've done
Yeah.
things here and there, but like I
Right.
want to line something up either in Atlanta or Nashville. I feel like
Hmm.
it'd be really cool. Um,
Yeah, for
what do
sure.
you have coming up and where can people find you?
Yeah, dude. So, coming up, I've got this first Unfound Radio takeover, and now we met April 26th. So, if you're in Nashville, please pop out to that. If you aren't in Nashville, still come. I got some great Atlanta talent. So, all you Atlanta guys watching, because I know a lot of y'all still follow me down there, and I follow y'all. Come up, hang out, have a great time. And then I've got a few different releases coming. I got a release coming out in a couple weeks on Alexander Popov's label, Interplay, with one of my friends, Kasan. And then I also got a another track coming out. It's a remix for Viv Castle down in Atlanta.
Shout
Um,
out.
yeah, shout out Viv Castle. He got me on the remix. It's coming out in May, towards the end of the month, which is very, very exciting there. But yeah, no, apart from that, I mean, I've got like five or six different, songs that I'm kind of like in the route, like finishing up some big collabs. I just locked in the biggest guest mix I've done yet for Unfound Radio for a DJ duo. Can't
Nice.
say who they are yet, but they play some pretty big events, including Tomorrowland. So that's awesome. So,
Nice.
got some pretty big things coming along, which I'm super excited to show. I've also got the Azure Day Party too. I got some bookings there with them. They're coming to Nashville. If you aren't familiar, they're kind of like a big pool party, day party brand that started out in New
Hmm.
York City. That is was expanding. So we got some good kind of like pool party, day party vibes like that going on. So yeah, and if you go follow me and just kind of like keep up with everything, hit me up, Lexion Music. That's kind of like
Nice.
my handle for everything. Alexion on Spotify. I got the Instagram Unfound Radio. Literally, that's just the handle itself. Super, super easy. When I made these handles, I was like, you know what? Like, let me make it easy for people to find. Not like
Yeah.
Alexion.music 123. Like, like,
Good
no.
good SEO optimization right
SEO.
there.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah.
Awesome. Alexion, I appreciate you, man. It's always good talking, always good catching up. We'll be in touch. I'm excited to see what you got coming up this year. It's gonna be
For sure.
great.
Yeah, and thank you for having me on again. This is awesome.
Anytime, man. Yes, sir. I'll
Yeah.
talk to you soon.
All right, later.